She was laughing the hardest she'd ever laughed around you. And then she went quiet. Not slowly, not with a warning, just quiet. And here's what nobody is telling you about that moment. It wasn't a bad sign. It was actually the most important signal her nervous system has ever sent you. And almost every man on the planet reads it completely backwards. Forget what the internet told you. Forget the forums, the Reddit threads, the guys handing out cookie-cutter advice about playing it cool or making her chase. That's not what we do here. What we do here is go deeper, into the real psychology, into the primal wiring underneath her behavior that she herself probably couldn't explain to you even if she tried. Stay with me through this entire video, because I'm going to walk you through every layer of what's actually happening when a woman pulls back at her happiest point. And by the end, I'm going to show you the one thing most men never discover. The thing that, once you understand it, will completely change how you move in every relationship you ever have from this day forward. Let's begin. You know the feeling. Things are going well, really well. She's texting you first. She's laughing at things that aren't even that funny. She's leaning in when you talk. Her eyes are doing that thing. You feel it, that electric current between two people when something real is forming. And then, day 1, her replies slow down. Day 2, she's busy. Day 3, silence. Full, confusing, maddening silence. And your brain goes to war with itself. You start replaying everything. That one thing you said on Tuesday, that joke she didn't laugh at, that moment where you maybe seemed too eager or not eager enough. You start building a case against yourself without a single piece of real evidence. Most men, brother, and I mean most, like the overwhelming majority, do exactly the wrong thing here. They either flood her inbox trying to fix something they don't understand, or they go ice cold pretending they don't care when every cell in their body is screaming. Both of those moves, by the way, confirm her subconscious fear. Both of them make the silence last longer. Both of them push away something that was actually, and I want you to hear this, moving toward you. That flash moment. You know the one I'm talking about. You've been there. She was smiling at her phone because of you, and you felt like you finally had it figured out. And then 24 hours later, you're staring at a one-word reply, wondering what dimension you accidentally stepped into. That's the moment we're here to decode. Because the silence wasn't about you doing something wrong. It was about her feeling something too right. And her nervous system, her ancient, primal, biologically wired nervous system, hit a panic button she didn't consciously choose to hit. Here's what the research consistently shows about human emotional bonding. When a person, man or woman, begins to experience genuine attachment, the brain's threat response system activates alongside the pleasure centers, simultaneously. Studies in emotional neuroscience show that the closer we get to something we deeply want, the more the subconscious flags it as a potential loss. Her nervous system isn't saying, "I don't want this." It's saying, "I want this so much that losing it would break something in me." And that terror, that primal, instinctive terror, is what creates the silence. She didn't pull away because she stopped feeling. She pulled away because she started feeling too much. And there's a difference between those two realities that most men will spend their entire lives never understanding. So let's build the map. Let's actually walk through what's happening inside her, level by level, so that the next time this happens, you don't just survive it. You move through it like a man who actually understands the terrain. Level 1, the happiness threshold. There is a point in early connection, and this is something her nervous system registers before her conscious mind catches up, where the pleasure of being around you crosses a threshold. Before that threshold, she's enjoying you the way you enjoy a good song. Nice, easy, low stakes. But then something shifts. Maybe it was a specific moment, a conversation that went somewhere real, a laugh that surprised her, a moment of eye contact that lasted just a second too long and sent something electric down her spine. Suddenly, you're not just a nice song anymore. You're a song she's afraid to lose. And brother, that fear, that's not weakness in her. That's actually the beginning of emotional investment. That's her nervous system registering that you matter. The silence that follows that threshold moment is a neurological response, her brain pulling her back from the edge just long enough to assess the risk. Most men interpret this as rejection. It is the opposite of rejection. It is the first sign of real attachment. But here's the thing about level 1 that you need to understand before we go further. Knowing this isn't enough. Because knowing why she pulled back and knowing how to respond to it are two completely different skills. And I'll get to the response. But first, you need to understand what's happening at the deeper levels. Because level 1 is just the surface. Level 2, the sabotage reflex. This is where it gets uncomfortable. And I say that because this is the part most men don't want to hear. Because it involves her past, and men in this situation often want it to be purely about them. Either they want it to be their fault, because at least then they have control, or they want it to be entirely her issue, so they can dismiss it. Neither of those is the full truth. Here's the raw reality. Every woman who has ever felt genuine happiness and connection has, at some earlier point in her life, felt that happiness ripped away. Maybe it was a father who left. Maybe it was a relationship that ended at its peak. Maybe it was a friendship that disappeared without explanation. The human brain, wired for survival, takes those experiences and builds what neuroscientists call an emotional anticipatory response, which means, in plain language, that her brain starts preparing for the loss before the loss even happens. The sabotage reflex isn't her being cruel. It isn't her being irrational. It is her nervous system in its most primal function, trying to protect her by initiating the withdrawal before you can do it to her. She's not leaving. She's bracing. And when a man doesn't understand that distinction, he does the one thing that confirms her deepest fear. He either chases frantically, which looks like desperation, or he disappears, which looks exactly like every person who ever abandoned her before. You, brother, are going to do neither. But to understand exactly what you will do, I need you to hold on just a little longer. Because there's a level 3 that changes everything. And I'm not going to rush you to it because if I give it to you before you fully feel the weight of level 2, it won't land the way it needs to. What I want you to sit with right now is this question. When she went silent, what did you do with your energy? Did you collapse inward? Did you go cold? Did you perform confidence you didn't feel? Because here's the thing most men miss completely. She wasn't just watching whether you texted her. She was, on a subconscious, instinctive level, watching how you carried yourself in the silence. Whether your energy shifted, whether you became anxious, or whether you remained solid. Her nervous system was running a test she didn't consciously design. And the result of that test determines more about your future with her than anything you could have possibly said. Level 3. The masculine presence signal. This is where we get into the truth almost no one talks about in this space. Because most men, when they encounter the silence, immediately start thinking about words, what to text, what to say, how to phrase something that brings her back. And I understand that impulse. When something precious seems to be slipping away, the human instinct is to speak, to explain, to reach, to fill the gap with language. But here's what studies on emotional and relational safety consistently reveal. Women don't return to presence because of what a man says during the silence. They return because of what a man radiates during the silence. There is a neurological difference between a man who texts, "I'm here for you, no pressure," from a place of anxiety, where every word is quietly screaming, "I need you to come back," and a man who carries that same message from a place of genuine, grounded fullness. She cannot read your words with precision, but her nervous system can read your energy with extraordinary accuracy. This is the masculine presence signal, and it is not something you perform. You cannot fake it. Her subconscious will detect the performance instantly, and it will feel worse than the silence. Masculine presence is the real, lived experience of a man who is full without her, who wants her, genuinely and warmly, but whose sense of self does not hinge on her response. That fullness, brother, that is what her nervous system is actually scanning for during the 3 days of silence. She's not testing whether you'll text. She's asking a deeper question, one she may not even have words for. The question is this man solid? Is he still himself without my validation? Because if he falls apart the moment I pull back, then I was right to be afraid. But if he remains, If he continues his life with warmth and direction and presence, then maybe this is someone my nervous system can actually trust. And trust, in the primal architecture of female attraction, is the precondition for everything else. Not trust like a business contract. Not trust like, I believe you won't cheat. Trust like, my body believes it is safe to fully feel around this person. Safe to open. Safe to surrender emotionally. That kind of trust is not built in words. It is built in the moments when you are tested and you remain. Now, here is where I want to bring everything together, because we've talked about the happiness threshold. We've talked about the sabotage reflex. We've talked about the masculine presence signal. And those three levels together explain the psychology of why she pulled away. But there's still one piece I haven't given you, the most important piece. And I promised you I was saving the real one for the end. Before I get there, let me ask you something, because I think this is the moment in the video where I want to speak to you directly, not just as a viewer, but as a man who has probably felt this particular kind of pain more than once. The silence is isolating, I know that. There's something uniquely brutal about connecting with someone at a high level, feeling the warmth of something real forming, and then watching it go cold without explanation. And here's the thing I want to be honest about. I have been in that place too. Sat there rebuilding the entire timeline in my head, wondering which version of myself was the right one to show her, wondering whether the real me was the problem. That kind of self-doubt, brother, is the most dangerous part of the 3-day silence. Not her absence, your interpretation of it. Because what the silence does to an unprepared man is it makes him small. It makes him start auditioning. It makes him perform instead of simply being. And the tragedy is that the performed version of himself, the anxious, approval-seeking version, is the one that ultimately confirms her fear and ends what could have been something extraordinary. The man she was laughing with, the one who made her cross that happiness threshold, he wasn't performing, he was just himself. And the path back from the silence, the actual practical path, begins with returning to that man. Not finding a new strategy, not crafting the perfect re-engagement text. Simply returning to the version of yourself that she was attracted to in the first place. Now, the final piece. I told you I was holding this back, and I want you to understand why. Because this piece, without the foundation of everything we've covered, sounds like simple advice. It sounds almost obvious. But sitting on top of everything you now understand about her nervous system, her happiness threshold, her sabotage reflex, and the masculine presence signal, this final piece lands like a key turning in a lock. The piece is this. The way you break the silence matters far less than the energy you break it with. Because her subconscious has been monitoring you. And when you re-enter the conversation, however you do it, whether it's a text, a call, a casual mention of something that reminded you of her, she is not primarily reading the content of your message. She is reading the frequency underneath it. Is this man reaching because he's afraid? Or is he reaching because he genuinely wants to share something with her? Is there desperation in this gesture? Or is there warmth without need? The chemical difference between those two things is enormous. Her body will know. Her nervous system will register it below the level of conscious thought. The way it registers the difference between a room that's safe and a room that isn't. When you reach out from a place of genuine fullness, when you are not trying to get something from her but simply re-extending warmth toward her, something in her nervous system relaxes. That relaxation is not a decision she makes. It's a biological response to the signal you've sent. And that relaxation, that is the beginning of what I call the chemical re-surrender. The re-surrender happens when her nervous system, which pulled back to protect itself, receives enough evidence that the threat was false, that the thing it braced against is not coming, that you are still there, still yourself, still warm, and that your presence is not contingent on her response. In that moment, brother, she doesn't just come back, she comes back deeper than before. Because she tested the ground, unconsciously, instinctively, in the ancient language her nervous system speaks, and the ground held. You were solid when it was hard to be solid. You were present when most men would have either chased or disappeared. And that solidity, that unshakable, unperformed, genuine masculine presence, registered in her body as the one thing she has been wired since birth to seek in a partner. Safety. Real safety. Not the safety of a man who will never challenge her or never leave. That's not what her nervous system is asking for. The safety of a man who is grounded enough in himself that she can feel things around him without those feelings destroying her. That is the sacred truth almost no one talks about in this space. The 3-day silence isn't a problem to solve. It's a gift if you know how to receive it. It is her nervous system giving you the single most important test of whether you are the kind of man she can actually open to. And the passage of that test is not about perfect words, perfect timing, or perfect strategy. It is about who you genuinely are when no one is watching. That's the whole game, brother. That is the thing the men in the forums will never hand you, because it can't be packaged into a tactic or a script or a formula. It lives in the gap between who you're pretending to be and who you actually are. Close that gap. Keep closing it every day through the way you carry yourself, the work you invest in your own life, the genuine warmth you bring to the people you care about, and the silence will never have power over you again. Not because she'll never pull back, she might. The people we feel most deeply about are often the ones who scare us most. That's just the nature of real emotional risk. But because when she does pull back, you'll know what it means. You'll feel the signal beneath the silence. You'll understand the primal language her nervous system is speaking. And instead of contracting in fear or exploding in frustration, you'll simply remain solid, warm, present, yourself. And she will feel that. She will feel it the way you feel the difference between a fire that's genuinely warm and a light that only looks like one. You've already earned the truth in this video by staying all the way to the end. Most men would have clicked away. Most men will spend another decade misreading the silence and wondering why the connections they want keep slipping through their fingers. Not you. Not after today. If this gave you something real, if something in this video shifted the way you understand what's actually happening beneath the surface of her behavior, do something for me. Not for me, actually. Do it for the man in your life who is sitting in that silence right now, replaying the week, building a case against himself. Like this video. Share it with him. That one click puts this truth in front of someone who might genuinely need it. And subscribe to this channel. Not because I'm asking, but because what we do here is exactly this. We go beneath the surface. We decode the real signals. We hand men the understanding that changes how they move through every room, every conversation, every relationship for the rest of their lives. And the next video, brother, we're going into something even deeper. The moment before she says, "I love you," when everything in her body is feeling it, but something is stopping the words. What's actually happening in that specific window? And what a man does in those moments that either opens that door completely or quietly closes it forever. You're going to want to be here for that one. Stay solid.